I stopped paying my sister's rent, and because of that, she didn't invite me to Christmas. My cousin pleaded for help, and I gave it without thinking. Now, I'm standing alone at Christmas, realizing kindness without boundaries can become a trap. My name is Warren. I'm 37 years old, and I work as a budget analyst for a mid-sized logistics company in Indiana. I live by myself in a small, well-kept house with 2 bedrooms, one of which I use as an office. It's just enough space for me and for all the thoughts I'd never quite found the courage to say aloud. This year, I started preparing for Christmas unusually early. By the first week of October, my lists were already written. It wasn't because I was obsessed with ornaments, lights, or the scent of cinnamon candles. It was because I wanted to make sure everything was perfect. For my mother. For my younger cousin Tessa, her husband Brent, and their twin daughters, Laurel and Ivy. I even bought a tiny knitted sweater for their dog, a bright green one with Santa's sidekick embroidered on the back. It's funny now, thinking about how detailed I was. Every gift idea was carefully saved in my phone's notes. The dollhouse Laurel had admired at a summer fair. The astronomy kit Ivy had pointed at during a library trip. Nothing too big, nothing too cheap. Just thoughtful things. Line by line, I planned it all. By early December, the gifts were wrapped in shiny paper covered in snowflakes. Golden ribbons for Laurel, silver ones for Ivy. Little handwritten tags attached to each. I even prepared spare presents, homemade cookies, an extra set of art supplies, a bottle of cologne, just in case Tessa brought someone unexpected. I didn't want anyone to feel left out. I know now I wasn't just preparing for Christmas. I was desperately trying to prepare for connection. To believe that if I did everything just right, somehow, this family would feel complete again. Safe. I pictured the evening clearly. My mother, misty-eyed when she opened her gift. Tessa, smiling a little, maybe even giving a nod that said, "I see you. I appreciate you." The twins laughing as they tore through the ribbons. All of us together, even if just for one night. But life doesn't follow scripts, no matter how carefully you write them. On December 22nd, at 7:42 a.m., I received a message from my mother. "Warren, dear, this year Tessa's family wants a quiet Christmas. Just themselves. Please don't come. I'm sorry for telling you so late." I blinked at the screen. Then read it again. And again. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe Mom was tired. Maybe she'd sent it without thinking. I set my phone down, convinced there was some other explanation. Maybe Tessa was sick. Maybe the twins caught the flu. Something understandable. I tried calling Mom. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. A third time, still nothing. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Tessa. "Please respect our wishes, Warren. It's not your place anymore. Not your place anymore." I stared at the screen, my heart hammering. The brightly wrapped presents sat stacked near the door. They looked ridiculous now. Like props for a play I wasn't invited to anymore. I sat there for a long time. Long enough that the morning sun shifted across the room. The coffee in my mug went cold. I didn't move. I didn't cry either. It was worse than that. I just froze. Later that day, I packed the gifts into my trunk. I didn't know what I would do with them yet. Donate them maybe. Leave them by a shelter door. Throw them in the trash. But part of me still clung to a thin, trembling hope that maybe, just maybe, it was all a misunderstanding. The next evening, I found myself driving toward my mother's house. Bloomington was coated in fresh snow, the roads glistening under streetlights. Holiday songs played faintly from the radio, but I couldn't hear the words. Just the murmur of voices far away, like memories slipping out of reach. Their house looked the same as it always did this time of year. White lights tracing the roofline, a wreath on the door, the glow of a Christmas tree filling the front window. But it didn't feel the same. No laughter inside. No Laurel or Ivy peeking through the curtains. I parked, turned off the ignition, and sat for a moment, the cold seeping through the windows. Then I opened the trunk, lifted the bags, and walked to the door. My hand trembled as I rang the bell. Once. Twice. The door opened partway. It was my mother. She wore a deep blue sweater, her hair pinned neatly back. But her face, that face I'd looked to for comfort since I was a boy, was closed. "Warren," she said quietly. "I told you not to come." I swallowed. "Mom, I brought everything. I just thought." "Please," came another voice behind her. Tessa stepped forward, her arms crossed. Just go, Warren. You make things complicated. We need space. Complicated. Space. Words that cracked like ice inside me. I looked at my mother. I waited for her to say something, anything that might offer me a thread to hold on to. But she only looked down, her hands tightening around the edge of the door. I turned to Tessa. Is this really about me not sending you more money these last few months? Her lips tightened. You have a steady job. A nice car. A house. Meanwhile, we're struggling, Warren. Laurel needed new shoes for school. Ivy's winter jacket barely fits her. And you're off buying yourself new things, traveling around. I felt my face burn. That car is financed. My savings paid for those trips. And Laurel and Ivy, they're your daughters, Tessa. Your responsibility. The silence that fell then was so thick, it felt like the snow itself was listening. Tessa shook her head slowly. You always think you're the hero. The good one. Well, we're tired of feeling indebted to you. I gripped the gift bags tighter. I couldn't tell if it was anger or heartbreak making my hands shake. Fine, I said quietly. If that's how you see it, I won't trouble you again. I turned away, the cold air biting through my coat. As I stepped off the porch, I heard Tessa's voice behind me, sharp with bitterness. Merry Christmas, Warren. Keep your charity to yourself. I didn't turn back. I wouldn't give her, or anyone inside, that satisfaction. I walked to my car, set the bags gently on the passenger seat, and climbed in. I didn't start the engine right away. I sat in the silence. The world outside was all soft snow and distant lights. But inside the car, inside me, everything was hard edges and splintering cracks. I whispered to no one. Maybe this is what freedom feels like. I spent Christmas Eve in my living room, the tiny artificial tree casting faint shadows on the walls. No family laughter. No mugs of cocoa passed between hands. No old knitted scarf from Mom, like every year before. Just me. And the unopened gift bags stacked on the dining table. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat, staring at the blinking lights, feeling a kind of hollow peace I hadn't expected. For the first time, the weight was off my shoulders. The endless lists, the hurried bank transfers, the unspoken expectations, they had all fallen away. I hadn't realized until now how heavy they had been. The next day, December 25th, I stayed inside. I turned off my phone, silencing any lingering noise from the outside world. Instead, I cooked for myself for the first time in a long while, nothing fancy, just a simple stew, and watched an old movie I used to love. Not because it was Christmas. Not because it was tradition. But because I wanted to. A few days later, after the holiday fog began to lift, I turned my phone back on. No missed calls from Mom. No apologetic texts from Tessa. Not even a generic Merry Christmas. It was as if I had been erased entirely. No confrontation. No anger. Just deletion. And somehow, that stung more than anything they could have said. For a few minutes, I considered reaching out. Maybe to check on Laurel and Ivy. Maybe to try and explain myself. But the thought passed quickly. I realized if they had wanted me there, if they had cared even a fraction as much as I did, I wouldn't have been standing outside in the snow with my arms full of forgotten presents. So I stayed quiet. For once, I let the silence stretch. On New Year's Eve, as the minutes ticked toward midnight, I sat at my kitchen table, a glass of orange juice in one hand. I didn't even pretend this year. I didn't make resolutions. I didn't say hollow prayers for healing. I simply raised the glass to the empty room and said softly, "You made it, Warren. You finally made it." And I meant it. When January rolled in, I decided it was time to reclaim my life. Little steps at first. I signed up for a Saturday woodworking class. I spent evenings playing old records instead of mindlessly scrolling through news articles. I even started jogging again, even though the icy sidewalks made it an awkward, stumbling affair. Piece by piece, I was building something. Maybe not a life anyone else would admire. Maybe not a life that would fill Christmas cards and social media feeds. But it was mine. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. A message blinked onto my phone. "Warren, this is Brent. I know things have been rough. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for how Tessa treated you. You didn't deserve that. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Brent. The man who had always seemed to hover quietly behind Tessa. The one who rarely spoke his mind. The one who never intervened when things got uncomfortable. Now, reaching out. I stared at the message for a long time. My first instinct was suspicion. Was this some sort of trap? An apology to soften me before another asked for help? But reading it again, I realized something. Brent's words didn't ask for anything. He didn't even suggest repairing the relationship. He was simply acknowledging what had happened. And that mattered. More than I expected. I tapped out a reply. Thanks, Brent. I appreciate it. I'm doing all right. Hope you and the girls are okay too. No bridges burned. No offers made. Just a quiet acknowledgement that we both existed outside the twisted version of family I had known for so long. For a while, I thought maybe that was the end of it. That things would settle. That I could move on without looking back. But sometimes life doesn't let you leave things so neatly behind. In mid-February, just as the snow was starting to loosen its grip on the town, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I ignored it. Then it rang again. On the third call, curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. Warren Taylor? The voice was clipped, professional. Yes, this is Warren. My name is Adrian Booth. I'm an attorney. I've been asked to reach out regarding some financial matters involving Tessa McKinney. I felt my stomach tighten. Financial matters? Tessa? What could this possibly be about? I can't discuss too much over the phone, Adrian said, her tone steady but not unkind. Would you be willing to meet in person? I believe it's important. There was something final in the way she said it. Something that told me pretending nothing had happened was no longer an option. After a moment, I agreed. We scheduled a meeting at a small office downtown for the following afternoon. As I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. Whatever this was, whatever truths were about to surface, I was ready. Finally, I was ready. The next afternoon, I pulled into the narrow lot behind a modest brick office building, tucked between a bakery and a closed antique shop. The cold wind whipped through my coat as I crossed the lot and climbed the stone steps to the door marked Booth & Weller, LLP. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of coffee and old paper. A woman in her mid-40s with sharp eyes and a calm smile greeted me in the small waiting room. Warren Taylor, she asked, standing to shake my hand. I'm Adrian Booth. Thank you for coming. Her voice was steady, the kind of voice that belonged to someone used to delivering hard truths. We walked down a short hallway into a private office, sparsely decorated except for a framed landscape painting and a few shelves of legal books. Adrian gestured to the chair across from her desk, and I sat, my hands folding tightly in my lap. She wasted no time. I was contacted by Brent McKinney, she said, opening a slim manila folder. He wanted me to review certain financial matters that have come to light involving his wife, Tessa, and your involvement over the past several years. I blinked. Brent? I thought. Adrian nodded slightly. I understand it might come as a surprise. But Mr. McKinney has grown concerned about how funds you provided were used, and he felt you deserved to know before any further complications arose. She slid the folder across the desk toward me. Inside were printouts, pages and pages of banking records. Transfers from my accounts. Amounts both large and small. Many of them immediately followed by withdrawals or transactions to businesses I didn't recognize. I leaned closer, scanning the documents. Restaurant names. Online gambling platforms. Luxury boutiques. Adrian watched me carefully. According to Mr. McKinney, Tessa maintained a secondary account under her maiden name that he only recently discovered. She used it to hide discretionary spending, funded largely by gifts and transfers from family members, including you. My mouth felt dry. I thought it was for Laurel and Ivy. School supplies, doctor visits, clothes. Adrian's expression softened slightly. That's what she led you to believe. Brent provided records showing that while the children did receive some necessities, a significant portion of your contributions were diverted elsewhere. I closed my eyes for a moment. It was one thing to be used. It was another to realize that the love and concern I'd poured out for years had been treated like loose change in someone's pocket. He isn't pursuing charges? I asked quietly. Not against you, Adrian confirmed. Brent's primary concern is protecting himself and the children in the event of a separation or custody dispute. However, given the sums involved, he believed it was only fair that you be made aware, particularly if Tessa attempts to involve you again. I nodded slowly, though the words seemed distant. I had no idea the true cost of what I'd given, not until it was laid out before me, stark and undeniable. Adrian pointed to one particular page, where a series of text messages had been printed alongside financial records. Mr. McKinney also uncovered communications between Tessa and a third party where your generosity was discussed. I skimmed the texts, and my stomach twisted into a knot. Don't worry about it, one message read. Warren's a soft touch. Mention the kids and he'll empty his pockets. He thinks it's charity. I think it's cute. I sat back, my heart pounding. There it was. Clearer than any bank statement. Not just the deception, but the casual mockery behind it. Adrian waited patiently, giving me time. Finally, she said. You are under no legal obligation here. But if Tessa or anyone else contacts you requesting financial assistance, you now have full documentation of how your previous support was misused. I nodded again, my hands trembling slightly. Thank you. I appreciate knowing. Even if it's not easy to hear. She smiled gently, closing the folder. Sometimes clarity isn't comfortable. But it's necessary. I left the office feeling like someone had turned my entire past inside out. The afternoon sun was low, casting long shadows across the parking lot. I sat in my car for a while before starting the engine, the folder resting like a weight on the passenger seat. I thought of all the times I'd said yes. All the times I'd stayed up late wiring money. All the moments I skipped meals to make sure they had what they said they needed. And somewhere out there, Tessa had laughed about it. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept seeing flashes, Laurel's shy smile when she hugged me after getting new soccer cleats. Ivy's wide eyes when she tore open the art kit I'd bought her. Mom smiling faintly over a slice of pie while Tessa thanked me through gritted teeth. I hadn't imagined the good. I hadn't imagined the love. But I had imagined the loyalty. And now, I couldn't deny the truth any longer. They hadn't loved me back. Not in the way I had hoped. Not in the way I had convinced myself they must, if I just gave enough, tried hard enough, stayed silent long enough. The next morning, I made a decision. I pulled up my contact list and began deleting names. Tessa. Brent. Even Mom. Not out of hate. Not even anger. But because I understood now. Some relationships don't need a blowout argument or a final betrayal to end. Sometimes they end in small, quiet revelations that build up over years until finally, you have no choice but to walk away. And that's what I did. I chose to walk away. The days after that were quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in years. No texts asking for favors. No anxious late-night calls. No small, constant reminders that I existed only when I was needed. For the first time, the silence was mine and it was peaceful. I started filling my days with small, good things. I rearranged the bookshelves that had been gathering dust. I taught myself how to cook better meals, instead of relying on takeout. I spent weekends driving to nearby parks, breathing in the crisp winter air, letting the cold clear my head. I even picked up a hobby I'd once abandoned, woodcarving, something I loved back when I was too young to know what it meant to be useful to everyone but yourself. Every day, I chose one thing just for me. A small promise I kept to myself, without guilt. It was strange at first, living without the background noise of obligation. But it was good. It was real. February thawed into March, and with it, a fresh sense of freedom. I was piecing myself back together, one deliberate choice at a time. Then, just as the ground started softening beneath the snow, the past came knocking one last time. It was a Saturday afternoon. I had just come back from a morning hike and was drying my boots by the door when the doorbell rang, sharp, hurried, unmistakable. I looked through the peephole and felt my chest tighten. Tessa. I considered not answering. I could have pretended I wasn't home. I owed her nothing, not explanations, not grace. But I opened the door anyway. Tessa stood there, bundled in a worn coat, hair pulled into a messy knot, a desperate look in her eyes. The smell of stale cigarettes clung to her. Warren, please. We need to talk. Her voice was raw, thinner than I remembered. I didn't move to let her in. I simply folded my arms and waited. Brent's leaving, she said in a rush. He's filing for separation. He's trying to take Laurel and Ivy. And he's threatening to drag everything through court. I need your help. There it was. The familiar script. The crisis. The expectation. But I didn't step into the role this time. No, I said simply. Tessa blinked, as if she hadn't heard right. Warren, it's serious. He has lawyers. He's got paperwork. He's painting me as irresponsible. Because you were, I said, voice calm, almost detached. And you didn't just gamble with your own life. You gambled with mine too. With my trust. Tessa's face twisted. She took a step forward. You're the only stable one left. The only one who can fix this. I shook my head. No, Tessa. I was just the only one who kept believing it was my job to fix what you broke. The words felt heavy, final, but not cruel. She stared at me, something crumbling in her eyes. For a brief moment, I thought she might apologize. That she might finally say the words I'd waited years to hear. But instead, she muttered. You're just being selfish. Turning your back when we need you most. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I simply said. I'm not turning my back. I'm choosing myself. Something I should have done a long time ago. She stayed there another second, caught between pleading and pride. Then she turned and walked down the path, leaving nothing behind but footprints in the muddy slush. I closed the door. This time, I didn't lean against it, trembling. I didn't second-guess myself. I just locked it, walked back into the kitchen, and poured myself a fresh cup of coffee. Outside, the clouds were breaking. Thin strips of sunlight cut through, catching the steam rising from my cup. It was a new kind of Christmas gift, months late, but no less meaningful. The gift of my own life, finally, quietly, returned to my hands. Weeks passed. Spring edged closer. Birdsong returned. The days stretched a little longer, the sunsets burning gold instead of fading gray. I never heard from Tessa again. Not from Brent either, although once in a while, I'd see a simple photo on a friend's social media page, Laurel and Ivy at a school event, smiling shyly. They seemed okay. Maybe even better. As for Mom, her silence continued. I think, in her mind, I had betrayed the unspoken family contract that I was supposed to give without question, without complaint. By refusing, I had become an outsider. It hurt, some days more than others. Grief isn't reserved just for people who pass away. Sometimes you grieve people who are still very much alive, just no longer part of your world. But grief is not a chain. It's a door. And I had chosen to step through it. I learned a lot during those months. About giving. About loving. About the sharp difference between obligation and connection. I realized that true family isn't built on keeping score, or on who gives and who takes more. It's built on mutual care. On presence, not performance. On respect, not ransom. In the end, walking away wasn't an act of cruelty. It was an act of finally telling the truth. I matter too. That simple sentence had taken me nearly 4 decades to believe. But now, every step I take, every morning I wake up without dread, every evening I spend in a house that feels like home, not a duty station, is a reminder. Freedom isn't loud. It's quiet. And it's worth everything. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.